Jonathan Harker's Journal, 1st of October, evening. I found Thomas Snelling in his house at Bethnal Green, but unhappily he was not in a condition to remember anything. The very prospect of beer, which my expected coming had opened to him, had proved too much, and he had begun too early on his expected debauch. I learned, however, from his wife, who seemed a decent, poor soul, that he was only the assistant to Smollett, who of the two mates was the responsible person. So off I drove to Walworth, and found Mr. Joseph Smollett at home and in his shirt sleeves, taking a late tea out of a saucer. He is a decent, intelligent fellow, distinctly a good, reliable type of workman, and with a headpiece of his own. He remembered all about the incident of the boxes, and from a wonderful dog's-eared notebook, which he produced from some mysterious receptacle about the seat of his trousers, and which had hieroglyphical entries in thick, half-obliterated pencil, he gave me the destinations of the boxes. There were, he said, 6 in the cartload which he took from Carfax and left at 197 Chicksand Street, Mile End, Newtown, and another 6 which he deposited at Jamaica Lane, Bermondsey. If then the Count meant to scatter these ghastly refugees of his over London, these places were chosen at the first delivery, so that later he might distribute more fully. The systematic manner in which this was done made me think that he could not mean to confine himself to 2 sides of London. He was now fixed on the far east of the northern shore, on the east of the southern shore, and on the south. The north was west sorry, the north and west were surely never meant to be left out of his diabolical scheme, let alone the city itself, in the very heart of fashionable London, in the southwest and west. I went back to Smollett and asked him if he could tell us if any other boxes had been taken from Carfax. He replied, "Well, governor, you've treated me wary and some. I had given him half a sovereign, and I'll tell yer all I know. I heard a man by the name of Blacksome say 4 nights ago in the RN Ounds in Pincher's Alley, and oh, he and his mate had a rare dusty job in an old house at Purfleet. There ain't a many such jobs as this 'ere, and I'm thinking that maybe Sam Bloxham could tell ye summat." I asked if he could tell me where to find him. I told him that if he could get me the address, it would be worth another half sovereign to him. So he gulped down the rest of his tea and stood up, saying that he was going to begin the search then. And there, at the door, he stopped and said, "Look 'ere, governor, there ain't no sense in me keeping you 'ere. I may find Sam soon, or I mayn't, but anyhow, he ain't like to be in a way to tell ye much tonight. Sam is a rare one when he starts on the booze. If you can give me an envelope with a stamp on it, and put your address on it, I'll find out where Sam is to be found and post it ye tonight. But ye'd better be up arter I'm soon in the morning, or maybe ye won't catch 'em. For Sam gets off main early, never mind the booze the night before. This was all practical, so one of the children went off with a penny to buy an envelope and a sheet of paper, and to keep the change. When she came back, I addressed the envelope and stamped it, and when Smollett had again faithfully promised to post the address we found, I took my way to home. We're on the track anyhow. I am tired tonight and want sleep. Mina is fast asleep and looks a little too pale. Her eyes look as though she had been crying. Poor dear, I've no doubt it frets her to be kept in the dark, and it may make her doubly anxious about me and the others. But it is best as it is. It is better to be disappointed and worried in such a way now that than to have her nerve broken. The doctors were quite right to insist on her being kept out of this dreadful business. I must be firm, for on my way this particular burden of silence must rest. I shall not ever enter on the subject with her under any circumstances. Indeed, it may not be hard task after all. She herself has become reticent on the subject, and has not spoken of the Count or his doings ever since we told her of our decision. The 2nd of October evening, a long and trying and exciting day. By the first post, I got my directed envelope with a dirty scrap of paper enclosed, on which was written with a carpenter's pencil in a sprawling hand, Sam Bloxham, Corcoran's, 4 Potter's Court, Bartle Street, Walworth, ask for the despite. I got the letter in bed and rose without waking Mina. She looked heavy and sleepy and pale, and far from well. I determined not to wake her, but that, when I should return from this new search, I would arrange for her going back to Exeter. I think she would be happier in our own home, with her daily tasks to interest her, than it being here amongst us and in ignorance. I only saw Dr. Seward for a moment, and told him where I was off to, promising to come back and tell the rest so soon as I should have found out anything. I drove to Walworth and found some difficulty. Potter's Court. Mr. Smollett's spelling misled me, as I asked for Potter's Court instead of Potter's Court. However, when I had found the court, I had difficulty in discovering Corcoran's lodging house. When I asked the man who came to the door for the despite, he shook his head and said, I don't know. There ain't no such person 'ere. I never 'eard of in all my blooming days. Don't believe there ain't nobody of that kind livin' or anywheres. I took out Smollett's letter, and as I read it, it seemed to me that the lesson of the spelling of the name of the court might guide me. What are you? I asked. I'm the deputy, he answered. I saw at once that I was on the right track. Phonetic spelling had again misled me. A half-crown tip put the deputy's knowledge at my disposal, and I learned that Mr. Bloxham, who had slept off the remains of his beer on the previous night at Corcoran's, had left for his work at Poplar at 5 o'clock that morning. He could not tell me where the place of work was situated, but he had a vague idea that it was some kind of a newfangled whereas, and with this slender clue, I had to start for Poplar. It was 12 o'clock before I got any satisfactory hint of such a building, and this I got at a coffee shop, where some workmen were having their dinner. One of these suggested that there was being erected at Cross Angel Street a new cold storage building, and as this suited the condition of a newfangled warehouse, I at once drove to it. An interview with a surly gatekeeper and a surelier foreman, both of whom were appeased with coin of the realm, put me on the track of Bloxham. He was sent for on my suggesting that I was willing to pay this day's wages to his foreman for the privilege of asking him a few questions on a private matter. He was a smart enough fellow, though rough of speech and bearing. When I had promised to pay for his information and given him an earnest, he told me that he had made 2 journeys before Carfax and a house in Piccadilly, and had taken from this house to the later 9 great boxes, main heavy ones, with a horse and cart hired by him for this purpose. I asked him if he could tell me the number of the house in Piccadilly, to which he replied, "Well, governor, I forgets the number, but it was only a few doors from a big white church or something of that kind, not long built. It was a dusty old house too, though nothing to the dustiness of the house we took the blooming boxes from." "How did you get into the house if they were both empty?" "There was the old party what engaged me a waiting in the house at Fleet. He helped me to lift the boxes and put them in the dray. Curse me, but he was the strongest chap I ever struck, and him an old feller with a white mustache, one that thin you would think he couldn't throw a shatter." Old school slang, right? How this phrase thrilled me through me. Why, he took up his and the boxes like they was pounds of tea, and me a puffin and a blowin' afore I could upend mine anyhow, and I'm no chicken neither. "How did you get into the house in Piccadilly?" I asked. He was there too. He must started off and got there afore me, for when I rung off the bell, he came and opened the door itself and helped me to carry the boxes into the hall. "The whole 9?" I asked. "Yes, there was 5 in the first load and 4 in the second. It was main dry work, and I don't so well remember how I got home." I interrupted him. "Were the boxes left in the hall?" "Yes. It was a big hall, and there was nothing else in it." I made one more attempt to further matters. "You didn't have any key?" "Never used no key nor nothing." The old gent, he opened the door hisself and shut it again, then I druv off. I don't remember the last time, but that was the beer. "And you can't remember the number of the house?" "No, sir, but ye needn't have no difficulty about that. It's a with a stone front with a bow in it, and I steps up the door. I know them steps, havin' had to carry the boxes up with 3 loafers what come round to earn a copper. The old gent gave them shillings, and they seein' they got so much, they wanted more, but he took one of them by the shoulder and was like to throw I'm down the steps, till the lot of them went away cussing. I thought that with this description I could find the house, so having paid my friend for his information, I started off for Piccadilly. I had gained a new painful experience. The Count could, it was evident, handle the earth boxes himself. If so, time was precious, for now he had achieved a certain amount of distribution. He could, by choosing his own time, complete the task unobserved. At Piccadilly Circus, I discharged my cab and walked westward beyond the Junior Constitutional. I came across the house described and was satisfied that this was the next of the lairs arranged by Dracula. The house looked as though it had been long untenanted. The windows were encrusted with dust and the shutters were up. All the framework was black with time, and from the iron, the paint had mostly scaled away. It was evident that up until lately there had been a large notice board in front of the balcony. It had, however, been roughly torn away, the uprights which had supported it still remaining. Behind the rails of the balcony, I saw there were some loose boards whose raw edges looked white. I would have given a good deal to have been able to see the notice board intact, as it would perhaps have given some clues to the ownership of the house. I remembered my experience of the investigation and purchase of Carfax, and I could not but feel that if I could find the former owner, there might be some means of gaining access to the house. There was at present nothing to be learned from the Piccadilly side, and nothing could be done, so I went round to the back to see if anything could be gathered from this quarter. The mews were active, the Piccadilly houses being mostly in occupation. I asked one or two of the grooms and helpers whom I saw around if they could tell me anything about the empty house. Of them said he had heard it had lately been taken, but he couldn't say from whom. He told me, however, that up until very lately there had been a notice board of for sale up, and that perhaps Mitchell, Sons and Candy, the house agents, could tell me something, as he thought he remembered seeing the name of that firm on the board. I did not wish to seem too eager or to let any informant know or guess too much, so thanking him in the usual manner, I strolled away. It was now growing dusk and the autumn night was closing in, so I did not lose any time. Having learned the address of Mitchell, Sons and Candy from my directory at the Berkeley, I was soon at their office in Saxville Street. The gentleman who saw me was particularly suave in manner, but uncommunicative in equal proportion, having once told me that the Piccadilly house, which throughout our interview he called a mansion, was sold. He considered my business as concluded. When I asked who had purchased it, he opened his eyes as though wider and paused a few seconds before replying. "It is sold, sir." "Pardon me," I said with equal politeness, "but I have a special reason for wishing to know who purchased it." Again he paused longer and raised his eyebrows still more. "It is sold, sir." We again, his laconic reply. "Surely," I said, "you do not mind letting me know so much." "But I do mind," he answered. "The affairs of their clients are absolutely safe in the hands of Mitchell, Sons and Candy." This was manifestly a prig of the first water, and there was no use arguing with him. I thought I had best meet him on his own ground, so I said, "Your clients, sir, are happy in having so resolute a guardian of their confidence. I am myself a professional man. Here I handed him my card. In this instance, I am not prompted by curiosity. I act on the part of Lord Godalming, who wishes to know something of the property which was, he understood, lately for sale. These words put a different complexion on affairs, he said. I would like to oblige you if I could, Mr. Harker, and especially would I like to oblige his lordship. We once carried out a small matter of renting some chambers for him when he was the Honorable Arthur Holmwood. If you will let me have his lordship's address, I will consult the house on the subject, and will, in any case, communicate with his lordship by tonight's post. It will be a pleasure if we can so far deviate from our rules as to give the required information to his lordship. I wanted to secure a friend and not to make an enemy, so I thanked him, gave the address at Seaward's, and came away. It was now dark, and I was tired and hungry. I got a cup of tea at the Aerated Bread Company and came down to Purfleet by the next train. I found all the others at home. Mina was looking tired and pale, but she made a gallant effort to be bright and cheerful. It wrung my heart to think that I had to keep anything from her, and so caused her disquietude. Thank God this will be the last night of her looking on at our conferences and feeling the sting of our not showing our confidence. It took all my courage to hold to the wise resolution of keeping her out of our grim task. She seemed somehow more reconciled, or else the very subject seems to have become repugnant to her, for when my accidental allusion is made, she actually shudders. I am glad we made our resolution in time, as with such a feeling as this our growing knowledge would be torture to her. I could not tell the others of the day's discovery till we were alone, so after dinner, followed by a little music to have appearances, even amongst ourselves, I took Mina to her room and left her to go to bed. The dear girl was more affectionate with me than ever, and clung to me as though she would detain me. But there was much to be talked of, and I came away. Thank God, the ceasing of telling things has made no difference between us. When I came down again, I found the others all gathered around the fire in the study. In the train, I had written my diary so far, and simply read it off to them as the best means of letting them get abreast of my own information. When I had finished, Van Helsing said, "This has been a great day work, friend Jonathan. Doubtless we are on the track of the missing boxes. If we find them all in that house, then our work is near the end. But if there be some missing, we must search until we find them. Then shall we make our final coup, and hunt the wretch to his real death." We all sat silent a while, and all at once Mr. Moore spoke. "Say, how are we going to get into that house?" "We got into the other," answered Lord Godalming quickly. "But Art, this is different. We broke house at Carfax, but we had night and walled park to protect us. It will be a mighty different thing to commit burglary in Piccadilly. Either by day or night, I confess I don't see how we are going to get in unless that agency duck can find us a key of some sort. Perhaps we shall know when you get his letter in the morning." Lord Godalming's brows contracted, and he stood up and walked about the room. By and by he stopped and said, turning from one to another of us, Quincy's head is level. This burglary business is getting serious. We got off once all right, but we have now a rare job on hand, unless we can find the Count's key basket, as nothing could well be done before morning, and as it would be at least advisable to wait till Lord Geldamine should hear from Mitchell's. We decided not to take any active step before breakfast time. For a good while we sat and smoked, discussing the matter in its various bearings. I took the opportunity of bringing this diary right up to the moment. I am very sleepy and shall go to bed. Just a line, Mina sleeps soundly and her breathing is irregular. Her forehead is puckered up into little wrinkles, as though she thinks even in her sleep she is still too pale, but does not look so haggard as she did this morning. Tomorrow will, I hope, mend all this. She will be herself at home in Exeter. Oh, but I am sleepy. Dr. Seward's Diary, the 1st of October. I am puzzled afresh about Renfield. His moods change so rapidly that I find it difficult to keep touch with them, and as they always mean something more than his own well-being, they form a more than interesting study. This morning, when I went to see him after his repulse of Van Helsing, his manner was that of a man commanding destiny. He was, in fact, commanding destiny subjectively. He did not really care for any of the things of mere earth. He was in the clouds and looked down on all the weakness and wants of us poor mortals. I thought I would improve the occasion and learn something, so I asked him, what about the flies these times? He smiled on me in quite a superior sort of way, such a smile as would have become the face of Malvolio, as he answered me, the fly, my dear sir, has one striking feature. Its wings are typical of the aerial powers of the psychic faculties. The ancients did well when they typified the soul as a butterfly. I thought it would push his analogy to its utmost logically, so I said quickly, oh, it is a soul you are after now, is it? His madness foiled his reason, and puzzled look spread over his face as, shaking his head with a decision which I had but seldom seen in him, he said, oh no, oh no, I want no souls. Life is all I want. Here he brightened up. I am pretty indifferent about it at present. Life is all right. I have all I want. You must get a new patient, doctor, if you wish to study zoophagy. Zoophagy. This puzzled me a little, so I drew him on. And then you command life. You are good, I suppose? You are a god, I suppose? He smiled with an ineffably benign superiority. Oh no, far be it from me to arrogate to myself the attributes of the deity. I am not even concerned in his especially spiritual doings. If I may state my intellectual position, I am, so far as concerns things purely terrestrial, somewhat in the position with Enoch occupied spiritually. This was a poser to me. I could not at the moment recall Enoch's appositeness, so I had to ask a simple question, though I felt that by doing so, I was lowering myself in the eyes of the lunatic. And why Enoch? Because he walked with God. I could not see the analogy, but did not like to admit it, so I harked back to what he had denied. So you don't care about life and you don't want souls. Why not? I put my question quickly and somewhat sternly, on purpose to disconcert him. The effort succeeded. For an instant, he unconsciously relapsed into his old servile manner, bent low before me, and actually fawned upon me as he replied, I don't want any souls, indeed, indeed, I don't. I couldn't use them if, or. He suddenly stopped, and the old cunning look spread over his face, like a wind sweep on the surface of the water. And, doctor, as to life, what is it after all? When you've all got all you require, and you know that you will never want, that is all. I have friends, good friends, like you. Dr. Seward, he said with a leer of inexpressibly cunning, I know that I shall never lack the means of life. I think that through the cloudiness of his insanity, he saw some antagonism in me, for he at once fell back on the last refugee of such as he, a dogged silence. After a short time, I saw that for the present it was useless to speak to him. He was sulky, and so I came away. Later in the day, he sent for me. Ordinarily, I would not have come without special reason, but just at present, I am so interested in him that I would gladly make an effort. Besides, I am glad to have anything to help to pass the time. Harker is out, following up clues, and so are Lord Godalming and Quincy. Van Helsing sits in my study, poring over the record prepared by the Harkers. He seems to think that by accurate knowledge of all details, he will light upon some clue. He does not wish to be disturbed in the work without cause. I would have taken him with me to see the patient, only I thought that after his last repulse, he might not care to go again. There was also another reason. Renfield might not speak so freely before a third person as when he and I were alone. I found him sitting out in the middle of the floor on his stool, a pose which is generally indicative of some mental energy on his part. When I came in, he said at once, as though the question had been waiting on his lips, what about souls? It was evident then that my surmise had been correct. Unconscious cerebration was doing its work, even with the lunatic. I determined to have the matter out. What about them yourself? I asked. He did not reply for a moment, but looked all around him and up and down, as though he expected to find some inspiration for an answer. I don't want any souls, he said in a feeble, apologetic way. The matter seemed preying on his mind, and so I determined to use it, to be cruel only to be kind. So I said, you like life and you want life. Oh, yes, but that is all right. You needn't worry about that. But, I asked, how are we to get the life without getting the souls also? This seemed to puzzle him, so I followed it up. A nice time you'll have sometime when you're flying out there, with the souls of thousands of flies and spiders and birds eating, buzzing, and twittering and mayowing all around you. You've got their lives, you know, and you must put up with their souls. Something seemed to affect his imagination, for he put his fingers to his ears and shut his eyes, screwing them up tightly just as a small boy does when his face is being soaped. There was something pathetic in it that touched me. It also gave me a lesson, for it seemed that before me was a child, only a child, though the features were worn and the stubble on the jaws was white. It was evident that he was undergoing some process of mental disturbance, and knowing how his past moods had interpreted things seemingly foreign to himself, I thought I would enter into his mind as well as I could and go with him. The first step was to restore confidence, so I asked him, speaking pretty loud so that he would hear me through his closed ears, "Would you like some sugar to get your flies round again?" He seemed to wake up all at once and shook his head. With a laugh, he replied, "Not much. Flies are poor things, after all." After a pause, he added, "But I don't want their souls buzzing around me all the time." "Or spiders?" I went on. "Blow spiders. What's the use of spiders? There isn't anything in them to eat, or—" He stopped suddenly as though reminded of a forbidden topic. So, I thought to myself. This is the second time he has suddenly stopped at the word drink. What does it mean? Renfield seemed himself aware of having made a lapse, for he hurried on as though to distract my attention from it. "I don't take any stock at all in such matters. Rats and mice and such small deer, as Shakespeare has it, chicken feed of the larder, they might be called. I'm past all that sort of nonsense. You might as well ask a man to eat molecules with a pair of chopsticks as to try to interest me about the lesser carnivora when I know of what is before me." "I see," I said. "You want big things that you can make your teeth meet in? How would you like to breakfast on elephant?" "What ridiculous nonsense you are talking." He was getting too wide awake, so I thought I would press him hard. "I wonder," I said reflectively, "what an elephant's soul is like." The effect I desire was obtained, for he at once fell from his high horse and began a child again. "I don't want an elephant's soul or any soul at all," he said. For a few moments he sat despondently. Suddenly he jumped to his feet, with his eyes blazing and all the signs of intense cerebral excitement. "To hell with you and your souls," he shouted. "Why do you plague me about souls? Haven't I got enough to worry and pain and distract me already, without thinking of souls?" He looked so hostile that I thought he was in for another homicidal fit, so I blew my whistle. The instant, however, that I did so, he became calm and said apologetically, "Forgive me, doctor. I forgot myself. You do not need any help. I am so worried in my mind that I am apt to be irritable. If you only knew the problem I have to face, and that I am working out, and would pity, and tolerate, and pardon me. Pray do not put me in a strait waistcoat. I want to think, and I cannot think freely when my body is confined. I am sure you will understand." He had evidently self-control. So when the attendants came, I told them not to mind, and they withdrew. Renfield watched them go. When the door was closed, he said, with considerable dignity and sweetness, "Dr. Seward, you have been very considerate towards me. Believe me that I am very, very grateful to you." I thought it well to leave him in this mood, and so I came away. There is certainly something to ponder over in this man's state. Several points seem to make what the American interviewer calls a story. If one could only get them in proper order. Here they are. Will not mention drinking. Fears the thought of being burdened with the soul of anything. Has no dread of wanting life in the future. Despises the meaner forms of life altogether, though he dreads being haunted by their souls. Logically, all these things point one way. He has assurance of some kind that he will acquire some higher life. He dreads the consequence, the burden of a soul. Then it is a human life he looks to. And the assurance? Merciful God, the Count has been to him, and there is some new scheme of terror afoot. Later, I went after my round to Van Helsing and told him my suspicion. He grew very grave and, after thinking the matter over for a while, asked me to take him to Renfield. I did so. As we came to the door, we heard the lunatic within singing gaily, as he used to do in the time which now seems so long ago. When we entered, we saw with amazement that he had spread out his sugar as of old. The flies, lethargic with the autumn, were beginning to buzz into the room. We tried to make him talk of the subject of our previous conversation, but he would not attend. He went on with his singing, just as though we had not been present. He had got a scrap of paper and was folding it into a notebook. We had to come away as ignorant as we went in. He is a curious case indeed. We must watch him tonight. Letter, Mitchell, Sons and Candy to Lord Godalming, 1st of October. My lord, we are at all times only too happy to meet your wishes. We beg the regard to the desire of your lordship expressed by Mr. Harker on your behalf to supply the following information concerning sale and purchase of number 347 Piccadilly. The original vendors are the executors of the late Mr. Archibald Winter Suffield. The purchaser is a foreign nobleman, Count de Ville, who effected the purchase himself, paying the purchase money in notes over the counter, if your lordship will pardon us using so vulgar an expression. Beyond this we know nothing whatever of him. We are, my lord, your lordship, humble servants, Mitchell, Sons and Candy. Dr. Seward's Diary. 2nd of October. I placed a man in the corridor last night and told him to make an accurate note of any sound he might hear from Renfield's room, and give him instructions that if there should be anything strange, he was to call me. After dinner, when we had all gathered round the fire in the study, Mrs. Harker having gone to bed, we discussed the attempts and discoveries of the day. Harker was the only one who had any result, and we are in great hopes that his clue may be an important one. Before going to bed, I went round to the patient's room and looked in through the observation trap. He was sleeping soundly, and his chest rose and fell with regular respiration. This morning, the man on duty reported to me that a little after midnight he was restless and kept saying his prayers somewhat loudly. I asked him if that was all. He replied it was all he heard. There was something about his manner so suspicious that I asked point blank if he had been asleep. He denied sleep. He admitted to having dozed for a while. It is too bad that men cannot be trusted unless they are watched. Today Harker is out following up his clue, and Art and Quincy are always looking after horses. Godalming thinks that it will be well to have horses always in readiness, for when we get the information which we seek, there will be no time to lose. We must sterilize all the imported earth between sunrise and sunset. We shall thus catch the Count at his weakest, and without a refuge to fly to. Van Helsing is off to the British Museum, looking up some authorities on ancient medicine. The old physicians took account of things which their followers do not accept, and the professor is searching for which send demon cures which may be useful later. I sometimes think we must be all mad, and that we shall wake to sanity in strait waistcoats. Later, we have met again. We seem at last to be on the track, and our work of tomorrow may be the beginning of the end. I wonder if Renfield's quite has anything to do with this. His moods have so followed the doings of the Count, and the coming destruction of the monster may be carried to him in some subtle way. If we could only get some hint as to what passed in his mind between the time of my arguments with him yesterday and his resumption of fly catching, it might afford us a valuable clue. He is now seemingly quite for spell, is he? That wild yell seemed to come from his room. The attendant came bursting into my room and told me that Renfield had somewhat met with some accident. He had heard him yell, and when he went to him, found him laying on his face on the floor, all covered with blood. I must go at once. Well, that was interesting. I had a lot of recollections reading that, and I'm going to share them. And this is kind of in chronological order. And detectives, I know you're going to like this because it's going to put together a whole bunch of things. These are missing pieces to the puzzle. And I think they're pieces they're going to help. So let's go back to the winter 2014. Okay, Justin is a sociopath. He is the biggest compulsive liar I have ever met. Now, he has something that he can't help. When Justin lies, his dimple comes out. He can't help it. It's not something he consciously does, but you can always tell Justin's lying when his dimple becomes prominent. He's just a total liar. But in winter of 2014, Jason Bixby was living at my house. And that was 2 houses away from Justin's house at 414 2nd Street Southeast in Redcliffe, Alberta. Now, Justin and Jay like to pretend they were enemies. However, one night they were down at the Hilton and I got a random phone call from somebody telling me, Sarah, Justin Wallace and Jason Bixby have teamed up. They're working together. They're pretending they're enemies, but they're not. I said, really? She goes, yeah, they're teaming up against you. I said, okay, thank you. So I had a big garage at the time. So in the garage, I had a couch and a TV. It was like my she shack. So I didn't know they were out together, and they were like, yeah, they're at the Hilton right now drinking together, and they're scheming something up, and I've heard your name. Thanks for letting me know. So I stayed in the garage and I had the door open waiting. And Justin's such a big mouth when he's drinking, so I could hear him and Jay walking home from the Hilton. And so I creeped and I opened the door a little bit to the garage and I was listening what they were saying. And then Jay had his typical little temper tantrum like he always did. And he was like, all I heard was, I'm a gangster. And Justin was like, we're all gangsters, Jay. And I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. Now it gets more interesting. So that was in the winter of 2014. Then in August 2015, Jay was working in Saskatchewan, as far as I knew, in the oil field. Well, so my mom's niece, Jackie Lamoureux, got swelling there. My mom's niece, Jackie Lamoureux, she has 2 daughters, Jessica and Amanda. Well, Jason Bixby was screwing around with Amanda because she's in the oil patch too. So this gets more interesting. Okay. So Jackie's sister is Yvette Turnowski, but Lamoureux. And her daughter is Megan. Keep this in mind. Megan, Yvette's daughter. And Yvette, Megan, Jody, and Jordan, and I believe his name is Evan, who is Shane Domislay's brother, all live within 3 houses of each other. Like, they're all, it doesn't matter. But let's continue. So Jay Bixby was screwing around with Amanda Lamoureux, who was a total meth head. As far as I know, I don't know, she still is. She was a bad drug addict. And their uncle was Pee Wee Lamoureux, who lives in Victoria, and he was like in the Navy and a sniper. So like we're talking corruption. Well, anyways, so let's jump forward. So let's go to winter 2014. I catch Justin Wallace and Jason Bixby. Find out they've been pretending to be enemies, but they've teamed up and they're talking outside about how they're both gangsters. So a few months later, in August of 2015, after Bixby and I had gotten married, but it was a fraudulent marriage because it was not it was not legit marriage, because there was a warrant out for his arrest he didn't tell me about. So there was a loophole there. But anyway, that was on July the 4th. See, you get it? It was Independence Day. I chose a date on purpose because I was investigating these people. So then anyways, month after this fraudulent marriage, he's screwing around with my cousin's daughter, Amanda Lamoureux. And they're smoking meth together. He told me they were smoking meth together. So, let's jump forward. And then in November 1st of 2015, Jay Bixby got arrested and brought to jail for like 5 years. Never saw him again until, we'll jump to that one. So, I'm looping a whole bunch of stuff together here. And I did that while I was reading. So then, now Bixby's in jail at this time. Justin thinks his hands are clean, but I already know that him and Bixby have teamed up. I've known this for years at this point, but I'm investigating, right? So then in 2018, Kristen Junk Domisley, I had started my business and I was working the North Country Fair. I was doing a workshop. And I had signed her up, asked her, because you get a free admittance to the festival. And she lost on me. She's like, don't you sign me up for something I didn't approve of, da-da-da-da. So I said, fine. And she's like, I want nothing to do with your business. So I've never had a partner with soul therapy. It was mine alone. My mom tried to steal my book. Kristen tried to steal my business. My sister tried to steal my book. And nobody, it was me alone. Nobody. And the reason why I didn't publish that book, because it was private and Jake was supposed to continue. It was going to be a family heirloom. Well, let's jump forward. So in the winter, this would have been 2017, 18? It was New Year's Eve. Chris and I were at Blues on White, and she goes, hey, Shane's brother Evan is having a New Year's party. You want to go stop by there and say hi to people? I said, okay. So Kristen drove my vehicle because I had a couple drinks. Well, I get there, and Evan lived like 2 houses away from my brother Jordan and Jody. So I get there, and Kelly Booth is there, and I haven't seen Kelly Booth since 1999. It was like, holy shit. Because I used to date his friend Dave O'Connell years ago when I lived on White Ave. Well, anyways, so now Kelly Booth is connected to Kristen and Shane Domisley, and my brother was friends with Evan Domisley. It gets more interesting. And Evan's wife was best friends with Megan Turnowski, who was Yvette's daughter. And Megan Turnowski and Amanda Lamoureux, Amanda was smoking meth and screwing around with Jay Bixby, are cousins. And Pee Wee Lamoureux is their uncle. Well, it gets more interesting. So this is how everybody's connected. Like, everybody's connected. So Bixby's connected with Amanda Lamoureux. Justin had teamed up with Bixby. Megan Turnowski was best friends with Shane Domislay's brother's wife. And Shane Domisley was Kristen Domislay's husband. See how they're all connected? Well, it gets more connected because now Chris Kowalczuk's also connected because Chris Kowalczuk worked with Shane Domislay's half older brother named Jeff. See how they're all connected? Like, we're talking about serious organized crime here. So then now Kelly Booth is at this party, and I hadn't seen Kelly Booth in like 20 years. So Kelly Booth and I start hanging out again. We start going to the gym. We start working out. And then, so now at the North Country Fair is Ian Junk, right? No, Ross Junk, who is their little brother, is at North Country Fair with his like hoochie of a wife or girlfriend or whatever her name is. I can't remember. Kristen Domisley, myself, Kelly Booth. And me and Kelly we were sharing a campsite and they were not that far from us. Well, that's the one where Kristen's like, I want nothing to do with your business. She wouldn't even come to the workshop when we were all at the same festival. She was being a total fucking wench, like she always is. Well, anyways, so then Kelly and I, the last time we talked was at the festival because he was doing a bunch of cocaine and got really fucked up, right? So I never talked to him again. And then I think it was a year later, I started seeing this guy named Doug. I can't remember his last name. Statham. Doug Statham. He worked for BP Oil. He was really corrupt. So anyways, me and Doug Statham were at Oscar's pub in Sherwood Park. And Kelly Booth's mom, who worked at the Goodwill, she was a manager who worked at the secondhand store. I said to Doug, oh, there's Kelly Booth's mom. And he's like, didn't you sleep with Kelly Booth? I'm like, gross. Never. He's like, well, Kelly Booth has been telling everybody he slept with you. I'm like, that did not happen. So I found that interesting because Kelly Booth was also friends with Kristen Jung, Shane Domisley, Megan Turnowski. They were all in on this. Don't you get it? So then it was New Year's 2019, something like that. All of a sudden, I come home from work. I was working at Boston Pizza, and Jason Bixby's in my house, and I'm like, oh my god! And Jake's like, and I hadn't seen him in I think like 5 years. I'm like, what? Why is he here? And he was there to steal the mail. But not only that, I went through his wallet and he had my sister's life coaching business card in his wallet. I'm like, oh, my sister's working behind the scenes with Bixby. Bixby's working with Justin. They're all working with Kelly Booth and Kristen. And Doug Statham somehow knows Kelly Booth's mom. And they all knew Dean, the owner of Oscars, and Justin knew Dean. And Dean gave my kid poisoned weed. Like, it was so fucked up. So then there was more to this. I was reading, I'm like, I have to say all this. So then, and then Chris Kowalczuk is connected to all of them too. You get it? So now they're all pretending they don't know each other. They all know each other. Megan Lamoureux, my mom's niece's daughter. Amanda Lamoureux, well, Megan Turnowski, Amanda Lamoureux, who's my mom's other niece's daughter, because Jack and Yvette are sisters. So these are all the people that pretend they don't know each other, but they're all totally involved. Megan Turnowski, Amanda Lamoureux, Jason Bixby, Chris Kowalczuk, Shane Domisley, Kristen Domisley, Kelly Booth, Evan Domisley, Shane Domisley's brother Jeff, who worked with Chris Kowalczuk, and they all knew each other. And then Doug Statham knew Kelly Booth's mom. Doug Statham knew my dad's wife, Crystal. And then my brother Jordan and Jody are friends with Evan Domisley, who is Shane and Kristen Domisley's little brother. And there was more about this story. Then I found in Jason Bixby's wallet my sister's business card for her stupid fake life coaching business, aka her basically sleeping with her clients. And then there was more to this. Kelly Booth had told people we slept together. Gross. I never ever would touch. I never slept with Kelly. Let me tell you, he's a total fucking cokehead. And then there was more. I was getting all these downloads. Brandy Hammond in Medicine Hat was doing business with Kristen Domisley. They were all behind the scenes, like working together. So that connected Sherwood Park to Medicine Hat, and it was this whole club of retards. And then Kristen Domisley had told me, "Oh, Sarah," I didn't know she was being such a two-faced wench. She's like, it was 2019. She goes, "Oh, the 20-year grad reunion you got invited to." And I'm like, "Why is Kristen telling me this?" And I said, "Well, come with me." And Kristen wouldn't come. But when I got there, Lori McMorrin, I don't know their names now. Like, they're all married. Maeve Cahill, Lori McMorrin, Angie Anderson, Leah Pennock. Like I said, they're all married now. And Nikki Panich, who's married to a guy named Craig. I can't remember. Nikki Panich, ooh, she's all like involved on the doctor end. Well, anyways, we were all sitting at the table at Oscar's Pub. See how it's all connected? And then they got all drunk and they were telling me about my mom coaching them all, right? So then there was another thing I needed to connect for you guys. They're all involved. They're all pretending they don't know each other, but my sister, Chris Kowalchuk, Justin Wallace, Shane Domisley, Evan Domisley, Shane's brother Jeff, Kristen Junk, Sarah Junk, Ross Junk, Ian Junk. Ian Junk threatened to shoot me. Ian Junk started a rumor that I sold hard drugs. Are you fucking kidding me? I don't do hard drugs. I don't even smoke pot anymore. But I never, ever, ever, ever slept with Kelly Booth. I never, ever did meth or sold meth or crack. They're all fucking liars. And then, there was another connection. I was making all these connections. Oh yeah, Yvette and Jackie, my mom's nieces, Megan and Amanda and Bixby, all knew each other. Paul Lamoureux, known as Pee Wee, who's my Yvette's older brother, who would be my cousin. He's like shady, whatever. I say he's shady because I caught him on his computer and my dad looking up like Steve Roy's criminal record and all that stuff, which is totally illegal. Like, he can't do shit like that. But anyway, just I don't trust him. And then I looked up Paul Woodward, who's my mom's husband, on LinkedIn, and he was all making comments on Megan Turnowski's thing, like they're all buddy. But then my mom always played it off that her and Yvette were big time enemies. You see how they're all like super corrupt? And what else? There was another connection I was linking together. I'm like, I have so much to say. And the lady that hit my brother Jordan on the crosswalk was Angie Anderson's mom's best friend, who was also very good friends with Mary, my dad's sister, Mary Yardley. And then there was another connection. And Mary Yardley and Justin's auntie Cindy worked for CIBC Bank. See how everybody's connected? And Nikki Panich. I don't know her last name now, but look her up. I think she went to the States to Berkeley or something. There was a whole bunch of weird shit going on, but they're all connected. And they're all pretending they're not, and they're all like Kelly Booth, cokehead, Justin, every drug you can imagine. Bixby, yeah. Manda Lamru, as far as she was always into meth. And then why do I think there's more to it? There was my sister, I found her business card in Jay Bixby's wallet. Yep. Why was there something else I was going to say? Like, all this stuff links together. These guys, they're all fucking corrupt. And what else was there? But I know Chris Kowalczyk worked with Shane Domisley's older brother, and they all knew each other. And then there was something else. What else was there? Oh, yeah. When I was dating Chris Kowalczyk, I was like, when I was 14 in 1994, he was friends with a guy named Bob Smith, and his dad was either part of the Rebels or the Grim Reapers biker club. I can't remember. And I didn't know what this meant. But then Chris Kowalczyk took me to Bob's house, and there was a bunch of they were bikers, and they were rolling weed. And all of a sudden, I don't know how they all knew who I was, but then they were like, you got to get her out of here now. And then Chris like, okay. So Chris and Bob got me out of there, and there were all these Harleys coming down the alley. And then Chris had to hide Bob out for 3 weeks at Lydia Kowalczyk's acreage. So all these people are like, there's just so much weird shit that I was putting together. Like, weird shit. And there was another connection I was making while I was reading. I'm like, this is nuts. And they all pretend they don't know each other, but they all know each other. Yeah, they do. There was another connection, though. Who was the other connection? I don't know. Maybe it'll come to me during the next read, but detectives, I'm sure that will help you a whole bunch. Yeah. Why do I think there's another connection? And Kristen Domisley and Brandy Hammond, which connects Medicine Hat and Redcliffe. And then Natasha Cartwright Curry, she goes by a few different names. She was totally involved because the night I got raped by Dan Dewick, Natasha's the one that put me in the cab with him, and I was already drugged, but I was totally coherent, but my motor skills couldn't work. So I remember I could hear everything. I knew everything was going on, but I couldn't talk. I couldn't walk. I was totally coherent. But Natasha threw me in the cab with a guy who raped me. And he was friends with a guy named Bubbles, who was a dishwasher at the Silver Buckle. That's where I got kidnapped from. Then the next day, I went to the Silver Buckle and I requested the video because I was dragged through the parking lot. And Devin, who is the owner of the Buckle, who was best friends and roommates with Aaron Andrews, and Aaron Andrews is Justin Wallace's cousin. Have fun with that one, people. And then the Crown prosecutor in Medicine Hat, her mom was best friends with my mom's twin, Lou Dart. And then her mom was the cook at the Phoenix Safe House where I was at after I got raped. And she told my Auntie Lou that I was homeless because I was lazy. Right? But I heard through grapevine my Auntie Lou passed away. I don't know if she was like 1,000 pounds. Little exaggeration, but she was a big lady. And I'm pretty sure that cook passed away by now, but her crown prosecutor, Medicine Hat, was also connected to all this. Yeah. There was something else, but Doug Statham. And Doug Statham is connected to Crystal, my dad's wife. But Doug Statham also knew Kelly Booth's mom. See how everybody's in on this? This is like crime of the century. I hope that helps. Anyway, let's play Singing Bowl. And don't forget, Justin's dimple comes out when he's lying. He's a sociopath, compulsive liar. So that dimple, it's always out. Yeah. This book is really bringing a lot of memories back. Interesting. Mm-hmm. Oh, and then Justin had came into my house. This would have been 2014, before I knew Bixby. And he came into my house, and I was laying in bed. He walked right into my house, and then he whispered in my ear and woke me up. He goes, I could have you dead and buried hours before your family would ever know what happened to you. And I thought that was weird. So I'm like, Justin was up to some creepy shit, and he beat the shit out of me that morning. Like, beat the shit out of me. And I never understood this because I have a glass table, and he took my head. He's like, I should just do it now. And I'm like, what the fuck is he talking about? Well, at this point, I worked at the Paradise City golf course, and I went in there with a big black eye and everything, and I brought Jake to work with me because I was concerned. Like, I didn't know what drugs Justin was on. And then um the owner, I can't remember her name, go down to Paradise City golf course, trust me, and she better not lie, because she was like, you should go press charges. Let me know, because Justin was always beating on me. And that's the same place where that chef Ray worked at, the drunk. So he knew about it too, and he's all connected, I think, to Randy Moore and Sherry Moore. And Kristen Moore was the stepsister Justin was nailing. Yeah, it's like a whole incest weird shit. Ugh. They're just all fucked up, man. And then Doug Statham is in the mix. They're all connected. Everybody. Mm-hmm. But if you go on LinkedIn and you go on Paul Woodward's account, you'll see he makes comments on Megan Ternowski's shit too. But then again, my mom plays it off like her and Yvette are arch enemies, and they can't stand Megan and all this. So what the fuck is Paul Woodward doing all connected with Megan? Right? Mm-hmm. And then Grace Rosano was always a medicine hat at the Desert Bloom golf course. They were always there golfing. And the servers that, like, some of them worked at the golf course, they also worked at Earl's. They're like, your Auntie Grace, she's always coming and spying on you. But she would always come to Medicine Hat and never once contacted me. Interesting, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then finding my sister's business card in Jason Bixby's wallet. Yeah, they're all just criminals, man. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm sure as I keep reading, more stuff will come up. All right. I hope that helps, detectives. Bye.